Hi, I'm Debbie Braun with the Aspen Chamber Resort Association, and you're watching this edition of Aspen Affairs. Guess what, everybody? It's election season. Did you know that? Do you know elections are now right up on us? So first of all, stay tuned for 30 minutes. I have a great interview today with our current mayor of Aspen, Torre. But just to get through a couple little housekeeping items, local election is March 7th. March 7th, mark that calendar. We need every single local to come out and vote. The thing about local, I don't know, I would just say the thing about our local community is you can be heard through your vote. So please vote. You don't have to complain, just vote. And that would be really great. So March 7th. But I'm going to give you the cheat sheet. You can get your ballots in the mail by February 14th, leading up to the elections. Here at the Aspen Chamber, we thought we would take the time to interview our mayoral candidates along with City Council. We're also going to be producing an in-person forum coming up here in the next few weeks. So keep your eye out in the newspaper for that. But without any further ado, my friend, our mayor, Torre. Hi, Torre.
Hi, Debbie.
How's it going?
Great.
Election season's here. Sometimes I like to refer to it as silly season because a lot of stuff goes on that doesn't really go on other times of the year. So why do you want to be involved in silly season, or more so, why do you want to be the mayor of Aspen?
Thank you. First of all, thank you to ACRA for having these forums. These are great. And I think we're also going to do maybe a mixed candidate forum as well with ACRA.
Yeah, here in a couple weeks.
So thank you to that. And thank you to GrassRoots, of course, for doing this. I want 2 more years at mayor, obviously, to continue working on some of the things that we've been doing over the last 4 years that I've been mayor, and then taking on some new challenges for our community as well. You know, as I look back, I'm really proud of what we've done. It was a tough 4 years.
Yeah.
Obviously interrupted by a pandemic. So that kind of put a couple of the projects that we were working on the back burner, even took a couple steps back in some areas. So I want to get re-engaged and make sure that we have some follow through. But then we have new challenges. This council opened up the entrance to Aspen discussion.
I can't believe you called it that. I thought it was the Castle Creek Bridge discussion.
You know, I've been here for 30 years, so I'm going to stick with entrance to Aspen.
Me too, yeah.
Because the Castle, for me, the Castle Creek Bridge is only one part of this.
Okay.
And I think that's kind of what I'm hearing from our community as well. But, you know, I want to be involved in that process. I think that I bring a collaborative style of leadership to get to some of the best solutions for our community.
Yeah.
I think that's a process that's going to really need that. So I want to stay involved in that, and just you know, a bunch of other issues that are going on with our community.
Yeah, there are never sort of enough issues out there.
There are enough, but you can't get to them all.
It's a lot.
It's the nature of what we do, though, and I say we because the same thing. You know, ACRA is an organization that looks for improvement. You know, we're all trying to get better at what we do. So same thing from the government side, just trying to do the best to shepherd and steer our community in the best direction possible. So that means tackling the challenges.
Yes, for sure. Tell me. It sounds like maybe the entrance is one of your top priorities. What about top 3 priorities for the next 2 years?
Top 3. Well, you know, like I said, first of all, we have a lot of things going on. So housing stays at the top of that list,
Always.
Of course. I actually these days am pairing housing with the workforce conversation. So I think that has a little bit different kind of influences on it right now and outcomes. So housing, of course, stays up there. Environmental, we're still, like I said, that was one of the areas that we really took a step back. Yeah. So I'm trying to get us back up to speed in that leadership position that we've always been in for environmental issues. Local business, a livable Aspen, you know, and I couple those together as well. Affordability for those that live here, a livable Aspen, local business and local business opportunity. More and more over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of large dollar, if you will, and maybe out of community businesses starting up, which is great. But I also really want to make sure that our locals and our residents have that business opportunity as well. And then on that plate as well, family and teen issues. Something that I think we could have spent more time over the last couple of years during my terms as mayor focusing on. Now I think that would be something that I'd really like to spend some effort on in the next 2 years.
Yeah, you guys really kind of were moving forward with mental health as a council. And then, of course, COVID hit. And so it's nice to hear that that's still on kind of the radar, and especially with our younger folks here in the Valley. Do you think there were any missteps that you had over the last 4 years?
Of course. Of course. Let's see, I'll go to the obvious. The living lab that was done downtown. We had some issues with the implementation. First of all, it was kind of a month late getting implemented and tried. And I thought that it was going to be more of an ability to make changes during the lab, accommodate what we liked and didn't like. But it really took the entire summer of rollout. So that was a misstep. The way that we handled that and implemented it, I think, was not handled correctly.
Well, what do you think the lesson learned in that is as you move forward, not to make like a misstep like that again?
Well, it was all about timing. We didn't recognize a lot of supply chain issues that were going to impact, whether that was the striping on the pavement or some of the hard goods that we implemented and stuff. So just lessons learned there were really about planning and making sure that you're ready to go when you're supposed to be ready to go. It was a tough time. I think through that, better communication obviously should have been shared with the community as well. But nonetheless, those are lessons learned, and we've handled those on the interior of our organization. We know where we didn't handle that well. So that was, you were asking about missteps. That was one, I think, from kind of our organization that I saw. I'm also trying to think, to be critical of myself and my role as mayor. Maybe I think going into the next 2 years, I would like to convene some more community meetings. Some more town hall type settings. So if there's anything that maybe I could do better in my role would be that, to take a leadership role in some of the outreach that we're trying to do through the city.
I think that's a great idea. I know during COVID, like those Zoom meetings where we were getting public updates where like 1,000 people were on those lines. And people are interested now that there's new technology where people don't have to get up and sort of leave their house to be able to participate. So
there's more avenues for communication and we need to be using them.
For sure, I agree. Everybody has a misstep, and the thing that's so important is self-reflecting and then figuring out how to move forward for the betterment of the community. And I do see a lot of that happening, but I don't think everything was bad. I mean, a lot of good stuff happened as well. So, what do you think? What do you view Aspen's greatest strength? And how would you build off those strengths as you kind of move forward, potentially in your last term as mayor?
I think I say this every time. Our greatest strength is our people. Our community is just amazing. The passion for life is just amazing, and I think that translates into every area and every opportunity, as well as confronting the challenges that we have. That's our biggest strength is our community, our people. And we did a lot over the last 4 years, whether it was mental health, stabilizing child care, which we still have work to do on. We're moving housing and community housing forward and such. So we did a lot over the last 4 years that I really attribute to community health. I think our community is stronger now than we were a couple of years ago, and I think we're gaining on that as well and becoming stronger. Some of that would obviously be that business part that I was talking about,
Well, it's interesting because for our membership, we have about 750 members, let's say. So we've been doing a lot of survey work, and I find that a lot of the survey comes back with 49% feel one way, 51% feel the other way. And I think that mimics community a bit, where our community sort of finds a dividing line. So as the leader of the city in the role of mayor, what do you do to lead us so that there's not that such a divide, because I don't think it's us against them.
Yeah.
It's literally our community against maybe other communities. We shouldn't be eating ourselves up.
No.
So how are you going to lead us and get these two groups maybe to come together?
I think we've been pursuing that, definitely from the council table. Our directive towards our staff and such has been for that inclusive approach on everything. We're trying to do a lot of communication, but more than that, not just outward, but getting it back, getting input and getting feedback. That's exactly how I view this job. I'm a team leader, and that's of a couple different teams. That's city council, the city as an organization, and our community. And getting all those to work together is exactly the role that this is. So, continuing to do that outreach, like I said, one of my goals would be to increase that, to bring those voices in. I was talking about the entrance to Aspen or the Newcastle Creek Bridge as a process. That's going to be one where we're really going to need to be bringing our community together. A lot of these issues, there's no perfect.
Yeah.
There's nothing that fits for everybody. So we're always going to have differing opinions and support for different actions. But bringing everybody together for at least the base understanding of why we're doing what we're doing and how we're trying to make solutions that fit the most people we can, and ultimately for the best of Aspen as a community.
Yeah.
That's how we're going to be able to bring people together from different sides of issues.
So you're the quarterback of the community then?
It feels like that often, Sometimes I'm the counselor of the community. I'm always the head of the complaint department for the community. But yeah,
you have to wear a lot of hats.
And for people that don't know me and those that do, I'm a tennis coach in my other job is a tennis coach. So, I'm used to that perspective from athletics. I'm used to that perspective from coaching. Coaching is an exchange, right? You don't just tell somebody what to do. You work with somebody to get them to get better at whatever skill they're trying to do. So yes, I do look at myself as a quarterback or a coach.
Or a coach, great. One of the criticisms I've heard over the years at City Council or from the business community is this lack of transparency. How are you going to ensure this adequate transparency and communications between the city, that's your staff, your council, your local businesses, and your citizens? So I think that's of highest regard is how are we going to be transparent?
It's about bringing all those pieces together and in the same room or the same virtual room these days. A lot of my approach has been, I'll give you a quick example. I get emails on a number of topics, of course, but let's just take traffic, transportation. If somebody has a complaint or a suggestion, I'm bringing that voice, sharing it with staff, and creating the loop so that we're all communicating, as opposed to just responding maybe to somebody. I'm bringing that staff members in as well, bringing city communications in as well, and making sure everybody is hearing the same message. Transparency is something that you have to have at the forefront of your thinking every single day, because one misstep in that area is what you hear about over and over. Again, when it comes to communication and the city communicating with our constituents, we are doing more now than we've ever done, and we're still not done with that. We're filling out our communications department. We're refining that for every other department as well. That's one thing that's new for the City of Aspen is that we've deployed our communication staff into every other department to help them do the same with their communications. So it's a day-to-day thing.
It really is, and I think people sometimes forget. I mean, you're a very big organization, if you think of it as a business, with many different departments, and your communications team not only has to understand every different department that, they're communicators, they're not engineers, they're not this, and then they've got to digest it down and then also communicate it out.
Yeah.
So it's a couple ways going with the communication, and I guess we just can never do enough, and I hear it from the chamber all the time. You guys aren't doing anything for us. And I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting. I think I am, but it's just really the perception sometimes. So you can never communicate too much. Is what I'm learning.
And you're right. You have to keep that whole issue very straight. I mean, you can never do enough because people don't always get it. They don't always see the message. They don't always participate, and you hear that often when somebody gets involved in an issue. Maybe it's their first time, and they might have missed some of the meetings that have gone on. They might have missed some of the communications that have been there. So you just have to keep re-upping, and that's okay. That's where a lot of our energy should go.
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile for sure. You know, one of these things that keeps coming up is this consensus voting that the council is doing. So I thought I would just ask you directly, like, what is the benefit of a consensus vote? Well, why do you think that's important? And I think you do think it's important because you made your public comments the other day addressing that.
Yeah.
So, and I haven't really heard you do that before. So
Thanks.
it kind of was like, what's happening here?
Part of the reason that I made those comments were because it's a fascinating topic even to me. I attend a lot of meetings that talk about consensus building, and they talk about it as it's a goal for you. And I question that a little bit because I know that we have difference of opinion.
Yeah.
So for me, I've really, especially with the council that I've been serving with over the last 2 years, I accept our differences. We don't agree on every item. What I was explaining with my comments was that the reason that maybe people are seeing those 5-0 votes from this council is because we do work on issues. We take each person's input. I'll give you an example. The short-term rentals. One of the modifications we made was a cap on the number of days that an owner-occupied STR can rent for. The rest of the council, the conversation kind of started somewhere around 60 days or 90 days, something like that. I advocated for 120 days. And other members of the councils might have had some concerns, but they were like, you know what, we hear why you're arguing for that and supporting that. It's not the biggest change. I'll come along. I won't vote against this over 30 days or 60 days for the owner-occupied STRs. So there's compromise and collaboration. So we get to the end of some of those code changes. I didn't agree with all of them, but I knew that they were in the best interest of our community. And that's what I was trying to explain about our consensus, is I think this council has done a great job of coming together on common ground and moving things forward for the better of our community. So we've achieved consensus. I think that's something to be proud of. Again, I don't hold maybe as much stock in it as other people do. I don't mind dissension or votes against the majority. That's okay with me, but I think we should be pretty proud that what we've done over the last couple of years has gotten that collaboration and that compromise together.
And if you think they weren't compromising or weren't collaborating and it was still like a 3-2, is that bad? If you guys aren't in 100% consensus?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And that's part of what I'm saying is, to me, it's dirty business. It's tough. We don't always agree on things, and we are not the same people up there. We're very different perspectives. So, no, to me, it's part of making the soup.
Yeah, watching the soup get made, right? Okay, let's talk about the city's strained infrastructure demands. Do you have any strained infrastructure demands?
We do, as a matter of fact.
As a matter of fact. And let's talk about it.
I'm glad that you brought that up because that's not for me the near term of maybe my next 2 years, but going into, if I win this election in my last year of this, I'll be termed out. So I will not be running for another term as mayor. And my plan right now is not to run for council at that time either. but I want to tackle that. You know, whether we're talking about our electric infrastructure that we are fixing, our water, obviously, we have limitations on that. We have some big plans to be working on that. Pedestrian malls. The list is long.
Oh, wow.
The list is long, but you know that's what you get. We are a mountain town, so number one, the demands on all of your infrastructure are very difficult, and then we're an aged town where a lot of our infrastructure was put in the 70s, so we're at a point where it all needs attention.
Yes, I would agree. Torre sits on the ACRA board, and we meet the last Tuesday of every month, and we met today. And we were talking a little bit about the entrance. There was some conversation around the bridge and the entrance, and I think I was pretty shocked when, I think it was Patty Clapper who said it would maybe even be close to 10 years before like there's dirt, like we're doing something. We're doing talking right now. And so it's not going to happen like in a short-term amount of time. And it seems like the community's been given a couple choices. I would just be curious to get your feedback on the preferred alternative, just fixing the bridge. Are we sort of trying to retrofit something the community thought, voted on years and years ago? Or are we going to be innovative and kind of look for new solutions? So maybe there are no more solutions because we've all been talking and having this conversation for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious from your perspective, do you have a preferred way to go? Are you, saying let's scrap what was behind us and sort of redo? What are your ideas? And it's collaborative. I know you don't just get to wave a wand.
Yes, and so for me personally, my goal is to lead a process that brings the community in to have this very conversation.
Yeah.
I've been very careful about not really necessarily sharing my preference of solution, meaning new bridge, repair old bridge, or the like. What I've heard so far in our outreach process and what's been shared with me is that people do want to re-examine some of what's been planned, the record of decision. The record of decision has a number of items. Many of them we've already implemented, right? So for example, bus lanes, dedicated bus lanes was part of that record of decision. And all of this is not just about that little stretch of a bridge.
Right.
It's not just about the S-curves. It is about more of the entire entrance to Aspen and exit from Aspen. So my goal, Debbie, is to run a process that really is inclusive of our community and has an open ear to the direction that we can get a majority to support. And so if that involves modifying the record of decision or reopening it, and I want to say I think most of this really is a conversation with CDOT.
Yeah.
These are the main players and main partners that we're going to have in anything that we try to do forward here, and we need to just have a conversation with them about what the process entails. What does it mean to open up the record of decision? But if that's what's necessary to get this community the best result we can get, then that's what I'm for.
How far do you think you'll be able to get sort of down the road in 2 years?
My hope would be that we would get the community to support a proposal to CDOT.
Great.
Without a doubt. And I could see that. I could see that being maybe sooner than 2 full years from now.
Yeah.
The City Council has another check-in meeting on this February 13th, so we'll know a lot more in just a few short weeks.
That's great to hear. Really important. I'm a commuter, so I haven't been on the bus. I feel like it's a confession or something since COVID. And we've actually taken some office space Mid-Valley so that our employees aren't contributing into the traffic during the high seasons. I was just talking to Park City, and they have a metrics in this meter where it shows the commuters what the traffic time would be every day and when they I think they've got green, red, yellow. So people who could alter their plans don't go in at that time. Has the city thought about putting that like dashboard together for commuters to say, and I almost do it off of maps. I know how to get to my office, but if I go into the maps, it tells me the route to take and how many minutes it'll take to get there. It'd be great if we did that on a bigger level, so maybe people would make some different choices, at least the car drivers.
Thank you for your suggestion in the form of a question. That's fantastic. You know what's funny about it? I was on the phone today with Pete Rice and our engineer.
Oh, no way.
Yes, talking about exactly this.
Yeah.
And saying, hey, it'd be great if we had more data available for people on a day-to-day about what's going on.
Yeah.
What's happening with the traffic. There are a number of cameras up and down 82. So there is some visuals that you can utilize right now, but I totally agree with you, and we just had that conversation today about something that can inform us more about the traffic conditions, but also be shared. And
I think shared with the commuters would be great. So, well, I'm going to help you with that project if you need some help
great.
in there. What are we going to do about workforce housing? Today, even at the board meeting, a lot of people are hiring up. A lot of people are concerned about their workforce. And like you say, we're kind of attaching housing to the workforce in a sense. Are there any innovative new ideas, public-private partnerships that are happening that maybe could help put a dent into some of the housing problems that are well, I'd like to say it's those frontline employees that I really want to get, inside of our community.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm probably most proud of over the last couple of years is that the city finally put together a strategic plan, a housing strategic plan.
Yeah.
And really that was just to literally get everybody on the same page. When we talk about housing supply, for example, we can build. We've built a lot. We're so lucky that we have so many affordable housing units in our inventory right now. Thank you to those that came before us and were smart enough. So we're talking about projects like the lumberyard, bringing new units online. We're talking about securing deed restrictions so that those units don't go the way of the free market. We're talking about no-build solutions. A buy-down program is a little difficult for us here, but there's other opportunities that we're discussing. We're talking with the county about county-wide housing and working together so that, so that Carbondale can maybe address some of their housing issues for people that live in Carbondale and work in Carbondale. Basalt the same. That'll alleviate some of the pressures off of Aspen, perhaps. So a little of everything.
Yeah.
We're trying to move the needle on everything.
I think it's good for the frontline employees to understand that, know that too, that there are solutions that are constantly being looked at and talked about, and that they're not the forgotten
No.
group. They're really a priority.
100%, and we're hearing that from every sector more and more, including the county, putting new energy and effort into housing solutions. But the city, we're that's again, like I said, it's top 3 goals for this council, but also it's a top 3 priority for me moving forward.
Well, we're out of time, everyone. We just chatted it up for 30 good minutes.
We could do another 30 if you want.
We could, but that wouldn't be fair. If anybody's interested in learning more about Torre's platform, do you have a website or a place?
TorreForMayor.com.
TorreForMayor.com. Just want to remind you all the local election is March 7th. Ballots are released in the mail on February 14th. Please vote. Thank you for joining me for this edition of Aspen Affairs. We will see you soon.